All right, sports fans, welcome out to the first episode of the GT Sports. It's a chat predictions, I call it, and discussions. And so this is a podcast. We're starting tonight. I come on every day, maybe evening, maybe early day, but every day I'll come on and I'll talk sports. I'll talk professional college and even high school sports, whatever anybody wants to talk about, but mainly we'll be talking, softball, college, baseball, football, basketball, NBA, MLB, but it's really open to whatever. If you follow the platform, right? I put up stuff. We talk about high school stuff, but it's not football because I've got a football high school podcast, but basketball, softball, volleyball, anything like that outside of football, high school, we can discuss it here. And then professional college as well. And so I'll come on. Sometimes a podcast may last 20 minutes. Sometimes it may be 45 minutes. If there's discussion and people are commenting on it, and then it'll go longer, right? So I'm hoping to get some dialogue and get people to tune into this. So I'm going to be coming on every day. I do other podcasts, so I'm not going to stay on here very long, but just going to hit the headlines. And tonight's episode number one. Right now, it's going to be pre-recorded. Maybe in about a month or so, or a couple of weeks, I may go live. Still haven't decided, but for right now, since it's the first one, just going to record it, pre-record it, and then you can listen to it here on our GT Sports Prediction and Discussion Facebook page. So tonight's episode number one, like I said, and I'm just going to kind of discuss the NFL. We've got the wild card next week. My Dallas Cowboys are in, so I'm happy about that. But I'm going to talk a little bit about Sunday's games and the teams that made it, and kind of give a little preview. I'll probably be doing that as the week progresses. But right now I'm going to recap some of the games. And the first game we're going to talk about here is the Philadelphia Eagles. 11-5, taking on the Giants. They were 5-11. The Giants had no chance of making the playoffs. Philadelphia, 11-5, but boy, have they fallen. And I'm not an Eagles fan by any means, but I didn't expect this team to play so poorly, right? Like they've fallen. It's almost like they don't really want to win. It's one thing to struggle. It's another thing to play awful. This team is struggling defensively and offensively. Not sure exactly what's going on. I still had them winning this game. The Giants ended up beating them. Let me see what the score was here. Oh, let me see. The New York Giants defeated the Philadelphia Eagles 27-10. So again, disappointing for the Eagles. They're going to limp into the playoffs, right? And that's awful. I think they'll beat Tampa Bay. We'll talk more about that, but still playing awful. So if you're an Eagles fan, you got to be mad, number one, but you got to be concerned because this team is really, really not playing to where we thought that they would be playing. I thought they'd be, contending again for the NFC championship. I don't think they're going to get there the way this team is playing. But again, um, let's see. Marcus Mariota played for Philadelphia. I think Jalen Hurts got hurt. He was 13 of 20, 148 yards, one TD, one interception. But the rushing yards, they were only able to carry the ball 24 times, 133 yards, passing 20 receptions, 203 yards. So not a some good stats there for them to win. If you look at the Giants, Tyrod Taylor, 23 of 32, 297 yards, one TD, one interception. The Giants get the huge, huge win, right? And we'll see where they go. But for the Philadelphia Eagles, I mean, I got to tell you, uh, I don't know. Some people tell me that they're probably going to beat Tampa Bay. Look, out of the whole NFC playoff, I don't want to talk much about that because I'm going to preview it here in just a bit. But I think when you look at this team of Philadelphia, that's probably the one team they could beat, but they just don't look very good. And this is not just this week. They have looked bad for the last couple of weeks. And so I'd be really concerned with this team. I don't think they're going to go far in the playoffs. Of course, you never know. Jalen Hurts was injured a little bit. They've got some key injuries also that's not going to help this team. So we'll see what happens. But as far as week 18, they take the loss to a Giants team that has struggled a lot and would not be making the playoffs. So we'll see as we talk wild card weekend what we think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to do. So these are just giving you stats, and in here on this podcast, I'm going to give you my opinion. Whether you agree with me or you don't agree with me, I'm going to tell you exactly what I feel, what I think is going to happen, and then I like to hear from you. If you agree with me, that's great. If you disagree with me, I want to hear what you got to say. Maybe we can start up a little debate here. So don't be shy. I come on the camera. You don't have to come on camera, but you can let me know what you're feeling here on the comment section. So now we'll go to the next game, which was the Denver Broncos 8-8 taking on the Las Vegas Raiders 7-9. Let's talk about the game first. Let's see here. I believe Raiders got the win. Let me see what the score was. Well, I didn't put the score up here again, so my bad. But I believe the Raiders won this game, so they finished off the season because I can remember um, with the win. For the Denver Broncos, there's this Sean Payton coming in. Reports. Russell Wilson. They've got a big situation out there where they benched him. There's all kinds of rumors going on. Look, Russell Wilson, I think he can still play, in my opinion, but I think there's more issues. Sean Payton may be the guy that can fix it and turn that franchise around. We'll see. Obviously, all reports point to the fact that Sean is going to. They're going to kind of put it on his shoulders and have him turn it around. I don't think Russell Wilson will be back. I think that's awful, but I think he'll find another place. I mean, he can still play some football, but I don't think it's going to be with the Denver Broncos. We'll see what Sean Payton has as the Broncos move forward. For the Las Vegas Raiders, they also didn't make the playoffs. So two teams we're talking about now that didn't make the playoffs. But now the big question is Antonio Pierce. And here's my opinion on this. I mean, I think the guy's done a great job. I think he's a good coach. I don't think he's the right coach at the right time for the Las Vegas Raiders, even though players have come out and they want this guy to coach him next year. I don't know what Mark Davis would do, but you're still paying John Gruden. You got, that was that unfortunate situation that happened. And then you brought in Josh McDaniels and then you fired him and you're still paying him. So I think for the Raiders, in my opinion, they need to get this pick right. Right. Like you need to get a coach, in my opinion, that is going to be there for 3+ years. And you need to give him an opportunity to bring in players and build this team back up. Right. The last thing you want to do is get this coaching um, decision wrong. And you find out in after year one, going into year two, that this was not the right guy. And then you're stuck with him and you're going to have to fire and pay him. So you've got to get this coaching decision right. And I think Antonio's like 5-4 or something like that. So I mean, he's been impressive, but not real impressive. But he's been impressive coming in. I think he's done a great job. I just don't feel for the Raiders that this is the right guy at this time because of what has happened. I think you need to bring in a more experienced head coach. I don't know who that would be. A coach that has won in the NFL and can help you build. Right now, you take a big chance. I mean, again, Pierce, nothing against him. I think he's done great coming in, but you're trying to get into the playoffs. You're trying to get a deep playoff run. You want to attract players, right? You've got to build. You're not close to winning the Super Bowl here. There is some talent there, but I just think you got to bring in a coach at this time for the Raiders that has won in this league and that can attract some players to come in that want to come in and play, right, and give the Raiders an opportunity to make a deep playoff run. And I just don't think Antonio Pierce is the guy at this time. Again, that is just my opinion. If you disagree with me, definitely tell me here in the comment sections what you think, but that's just my opinion. I mean, I may be wrong, and you know, Mark Davis may hire him, but if it were me, if I were the owner, no disrespect, I think Antonio Pierce has done a great job, and I think he's going to find a coordinating position somewhere. I think he's earned that. But to be the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders at this time, if I were the owner, I wouldn't do that. But we'll see as the weeks, days, and weeks follow up. We'll see what Mark Davis does. The next game that will recap the Atlanta Falcons 7-9, taking on the New Orleans Saints 8-8. Neither one of these teams made the playoffs. And no surprise there. Um, I think when you look at both of them, I think the I think the Saints, obviously the Falcons fired their head coach. We'll see where they end up going here, who they will select. Um, I think after 3 years, he had to go. Obviously, they weren't getting where they needed to go. Bringing him back another year really wouldn't have helped this team at all. So they need a new head man moving forward. They do got some pieces there, but I don't think it's just on the coach either. I think the front office has to look at themselves. But I couldn't disagree with, especially in this last game, the way they got beat. He had to go, and they need a new direction. So I have to agree with what the Falcons are doing here. We'll see who they bring in. The Saints, I'm not sure. They haven't fired anybody that I've heard of today on Monday. But again, this team won't make the playoffs. So both teams sitting at home. They'll be watching the playoffs. We'll see what the Saints do. The Saints were kind of like iffy. I don't know. They got Derek Carr out there. I mean, how good is he going to be moving forward? I mean, they've got a lot of things that they've got to also figure out there. 8-8, not too bad, but we're expecting more out of the Saints. So we'll see what kind of changes are made there in the coming days or weeks. Next game, we'll talk about the Minnesota Vikings, the Detroit Lions. The Lions 11-5 in the playoffs. Man, this team is playing great, right? Like they're that's a dangerous team, and I think what makes them dangerous, they got one heck of a coach out there in Campbell, and they're playing tough for him, and getting Detroit back into the playoffs is huge. They took that loss to Dallas, that controversial loss that some people, everybody has an opinion on it, right? I'm not going to go into that, but it did kind of set them back. They're going to have a tough game. We'll talk about that in the wild card. But playing the Vikings, they got the win. Um, Let me see. Not sure if I put the scores down here on this. But I believe Detroit will be going into the playoffs. Minnesota, man, disappointing season. They had an opportunity at times to pushed themselves into the postseason. Couldn't do it. But for Detroit, moving forward, a great season, man. Like I said, great season. I think they're going to be tough. I think that's one of the teams that's going to be kind of surprising. They can score, and they're physical. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, their first matchup here next week is going to be tough, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But a great season, and Minnesota not so good. We'll go to the next game here, and you had the Buffalo Bills taking on the Miami Dolphins. I'm gonna see if I can kind of give you the scores here. I may have them here. I do have another device here that I could see, but Miami. Let me see here just a bit. So you had the Buffalo Bills taking on the Miami Dolphins. The Bills get that win 21-14. Both of these teams are going to be in the playoffs. Buffalo Bills kind of struggled at the beginning or probably by the middle of the season. They're playing a lot better, but I'm still a little concerned. Josh Allen had a couple of interceptions in this game. So the Buffalo Bills, they're real interesting because um, winning the division, but they when they play good, they're great. Like there are weeks when they come out and you think this team could go to the Super Bowl. I mean, they just play great, but they're very inconsistent. And Josh Allen in particular, sometimes he struggles, sometimes he doesn't. So this team going in to the playoffs, I can't say that I think they're better than Baltimore. I believe Baltimore is the better team, the best team in the AFC. But Buffalo scares me because sometimes when they're good, they can beat anybody, but then they struggle at times, and when they're bad, they're bad. So it's going to be. We'll see what they do, but I'm not confident that they can get to the AFC championship because they're just very inconsistent and the way I've seen this team play. For the Miami Dolphins, it's disappointing. Tua didn't play a very good game at home, taking on the Bills. They had an opportunity to win the division, and they stunk it up. And so that's another team that I like the Miami Dolphins. I like both teams. I'm not a fan either, but I like Buffalo and I like Miami, and I like to see Miami in the AFC Championship. But again, at times they look good too, and at times they don't. They've kind of fallen here a bit with an offense that I think is one of the best offenses in the NFL. But there are times that they just can't get anything going. Turnovers from Tua in this game, even though they were in this game, right, and driving toward the end, they threw that interception that ended it. But 21-14 was a battle. These two teams are going to be in the playoffs. We'll see what they do. You can't discount any one of them because I think they're both the same in that when they play good, we know that Miami has that offense, and when they're rolling, they're rolling. But they're also very inconsistent at times when they play good and then they don't. So you don't really know what you're going to get. Two good offenses, two good quarterbacks that can put up points, but very inconsistent. So from week to week, you don't know what team you're going to get, but you're going to see both of those teams in the playoffs. So it's going to be very interesting to see how far they can go. Then we go to the next game here, and you got the Dallas Cowboys and you got the Washington Commanders. Cowboys, my team here, they've done great this year. I'm going to tell you, I wasn't a Mike McCarthy fan, and I'm really still not. I don't think he's the right guy still, but I do got to give him credit. I think Dak Prescott, in my opinion, has not played great the last couple of years. McCarthy's offense has come in. Dak has looked great. So I mean, I don't know how far Dallas can go here. I think for McCarthy to keep his job, he needs to get to the NFC Championship. I said that at the beginning, right? You need to go up there if it's San Francisco, and you need to be competitive. I mean, I would love to win this game, but you can't. If you get to the NFC and you're Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys, you can't get blown out, right? Because the expectation for your job is to get to the Super Bowl, right? Like winning one round, losing the second round, you could possibly lose your job, even though you've had a great winning record. And again, you won the division. That's not good enough, I believe, for Jerry Jones, right? The expectation, I think Mike McCarthy knows, it's getting to the NFC Championship, being competitive, winning that, getting to a Super Bowl, right? So he's got to get there. I think the Cowboys do have a good chance. But again, there's been some questioning on the time management. You saw some of the plays at the very end where they're throwing the ball and you're like, what are you doing? So there's some questions there. Everyone's question. I don't know why that continues to happen, but in the playoffs, if we continue to make those type of mistakes, it could come back to beat us, right? So there's some concern there with time management and the way we finished some games throughout this season. I've questioned Mike McCarthy and why did we do this? I'm not the coach, but just as a fan, why are we doing this? And then you see teams coming back and possibly beating us or could beat us, or we put ourselves in a bad position, right? That's time management from the way the head coach is calling the plays. That's one. But on the other side, on the flip side, right, Dak Prescott's looked very good. And that's a credit to Mike McCarthy's office. This is the best Dak's looked in the last couple of years. And so I think if you're Jerry Jones, that's another question you have to ask yourself. So let's say we beat Green Bay, but let's say we lose in round two. Do you fire McCarthy? Because the other part of that is Dak has looked good. Do you give McCarthy an extension and bring him back and build on that? That's going to be a tough question that Jerry Jones is going to have to answer because, like I said, Dak has been playing good this year. CeeDee Lamb has looked like the best receiver in the NFL, right? And every week he's gotten better. So there's been some good to what the Cowboys have done this year with this new offense that Mike McCarthy's put in. But at the end of the day, it's about how far can you get. And I think Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys need to get to the NFC Championship, right? And we need to win or be competitive. But anything underneath that, I think you gotta think, McCarthy possibly could get fired if he doesn't get there, right? Then you got Dan Quinn, who has been great for our defense. And now I read reports today and yesterday that, now he's wanting to get and possibly go into a head coaching position. So there's a lot there. I think if we lose Dan Quinn, that would hurt our defense. I mean, I'm not sure who'd come in, but he's done a great job. Got to find a way to keep that. Just a lot of stuff up in the air as far as what could possibly happen for the Cowboys. Um, but overall, right now, we've got to just concentrate on next week, and that's the Green Bay Packers at home, possibly 2 games where Dallas is undefeated. So we're sitting pretty right now, but we got to win those games. But at the end of the day, Mike McCarthy needs to get to the NFC Championship, in my opinion, to keep his job. Then we turn over to the Washington Commanders, new ownership out there with the Commanders. Ron Rivera, I think he's a great coach. I like Ron Rivera, but the management and ownership was horrible there, and so he was in a position where I don't think he could have won. Right? Obviously, new ownerships. I don't think it's all on Ron Rivera, but ownership wants to go a different route. They want to get a new GM there, a new coach, and I don't blame them. That's what new ownerships do, right? They want to start fresh. So Ron Rivera is out. We'll see if he continues to coach. We'll see what happens, but it's going to be very interesting to see where Washington goes, who they hire, who their next coach will be. But definitely, Ron Rivera is out. The Washington Commanders will not be in the playoffs, so we'll keep an eye on them here on this podcast. So we come on daily, and as we get updates and news, we'll definitely be talking about the Commanders as well. Now we'll jump over to the next game this week, and you had the Los Angeles Rams 9-7, a team that is going to be in the playoffs, a scary team, I might add, taking on the 49ers. The Rams got that win, but again, both of these teams are going to be in the playoffs. The Los Angeles Rams, I think, are one of the scariest teams, right, in the NFC. They're playing good. And in the days to come, we'll kind of break down these teams and receivers and quarterbacks and defense and all this. But right now, what I'll say about the Rams is they're going to be on the road, but this team, I think, can beat Detroit. I think they could beat Dallas. I think they can beat pretty much everybody. Now, they beat San Francisco, but let's kind of pause here, right? San Francisco had a lot of their starters out. So even though it was a good win for the Rams, if the 49ers are playing their stars, I don't think the Rams get that win. But the Rams are dangerous. So in this playoffs, man, they've got nothing to lose because they weren't supposed to be here to begin with, right? So they've got nothing to lose. They're playing free. I think for the team that they're going to play, man, you got to be careful with this team. You got to come and play your A game because if you do not, the Rams could beat you. So I think the Rams are the most dangerous team on the road because I think they could beat anybody. Now, San Francisco, I think, is the best team in the NFC. Obviously, to get to the Super Bowl, the road's going to go through San Francisco. My Cowboys are going to have to go there. I'm not a San Francisco 49er fan at all. I don't like this team, and I've never liked them. But I think Kyle Shanahan has done one heck of a job there. I think he's a great coach. And that team is built to win a Super Bowl, right? Because their defense is good. They can they can rush the passer, and they can defend well the run and the pass, right? And offensively, they can do the two things you need. They can run the ball and they can pass the ball, which puts a lot of pressure on the defense. When I look at that San Francisco 49er team, they're built to win a Super Bowl because they can do multiple things right. Teams, Super Bowl winning teams, things that they need, the San Francisco 49ers have. So this is a very dangerous team. Should they stay healthy, they're obviously the team to beat in the NFC. But both of these teams are in the playoffs. This game that they played was pretty much meaningless because for the San Francisco 49ers, they didn't play their starters, right? But moving forward, we'll see if the Rams can get out of the first round. It's going to be very interesting. We'll talk about that here in a bit. The next game we'll talk about here: Kansas City Chiefs, Los Angeles Chargers. Let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs first. They are in the playoffs, number one, but they're not playing good, right? We've seen drop passes. We've heard people talk about how the receivers aren't that good. Patrick Mahomes has struggled. Travis Kelce doesn't look the same. This is obviously not the same Kansas City Chiefs team that we've seen in the past, but they're still the Chiefs. They still got Patrick Mahomes, and it's still a very dangerous team. Albeit they're not playing great, they're in the playoffs. You can never count them out. I am a little concerned because I don't see them being as tough as I have in the past. I don't think they'll be playing the Ravens in the AFC Championship. But again, you can never count them out because their championship pedigree, right? And then the man that runs that offense is about the best there is in the NFL. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do in the playoffs. But for me, I think it's still a team that you have to consider possibly. You can never count them out, but I don't see them making it to the regular. I don't. We'll see what happens. For the Los Angeles Chargers, they'll be looking for a coach. They fired their coach mid-season. I think this team for me is probably an attractive team for a good coach. They've got Justin Herbert, a good coach. I mean, a good quarterback. My apologies. They've got a great quarterback out there. The offense is good, can score points, right? So I think for the Chargers, they've got to bring the right coach in. This team should be in the playoffs. There's no reason they shouldn't be in the playoffs. They're that good. They just have not been able to win the games needed to get to the postseason. So I think if you're the Chargers, you need to get the right coach. You need to make the right decision and get the right coach to get in there. It's a shame that once again this year you're not in the postseason, right? Because I saw a lot of the games. I don't think that the coach they had was the right coach to begin with. I thought he should have got fired last year. But they brought him back, which is a mistake because he didn't finish the season. So they just should have fired him then. But they brought him back, and now you got to go do a search. Now you got to get the right coach in there. And because the Chargers, they need to be more competitive. And I think this team is good enough, in my opinion, to get to the postseason. And let's see what they can do, right? So I want to see the Chargers in the playoffs. We'll see what happens. They're definitely not going to make it this year, but we'll see moving forward what this team can do next year and who will be coaching them. Next game, the Chicago Bears, the Green Bay Packers. Let's talk about the Packers first, man. They're coming to Dallas, and they're coming to play the Dallas Cowboys, my team. Now, in the past, we've been concerned about the Packers, and we've seen the Packers upset the Cowboys numerous times. But there's no Aaron Rodgers this time, right? So we don't have to worry about that. There is a kid named Jordan Love who has sat behind and seen how Aaron Rodgers gets it done. Look, the Packers are playing really good football. They got into the playoffs, and they're coming to Dallas. But for the Dallas Cowboys, and for all you Cowboy fans, you're hearing it here, right? You need to win this game. It's going to be an embarrassment if they come in and beat us because we're 8-0 at home. We play our best football there. And the Dallas Cowboys it shouldn't even be close, in my opinion, right? We should stomp the Green Bay Packers, right? With the way the CeeDee Lamb's been playing, Dak Prescott, our defense. I mean, everything is set up for the Cowboys to go to the second round, but you got to play the game. And the Dallas Cowboys, not sure if they're cursed, right? But boy, sometimes we just struggle in games like this. So am I a little concerned? Yes, because of what history has told me. But looking at the way they played, I do think this is a little bit of a different team. We should beat them. But listen, you got to come and play your game. Green Bay's playing good. And again, they're just like the Rams. They've got nothing to lose. Nope, they didn't think they were going to be here, right? Jordan Love has played great down the stretch. You've got his team into the playoffs, right? So they feel good. And I think they're going to come in and play free. But when you look at the way the Cowboys have played, especially at home, the road has been really difficult, but home has not. Outside of the Detroit Lions, they have played well. I expect Dallas to play well on offense and defense this weekend, and I expect them to get a win. Now, later on, I'll give a score on what I think will happen. But if the Cowboys lose this game at home, Mike McCarthy should be fired. I mean, I'll go as far as saying that. I don't care how good Dak Prescott and that offense has been. If you can't win this game against Green Bay, Mike McCarthy needs to go. So he needs to win. I do believe the Cowboys will win this game. But again, these games are kind of scary because Green Bay comes in, they play free. If they lose, nobody really expected them to win. So there's no pressure on Green Bay as far as I see it. There is pressure on the Cowboys. But again, the way the season's gone, you almost think the Cowboys should win this game. But history tells us sometimes it doesn't go that way, right? So again, this I will talk a little bit more about Green Bay and Dallas later on this podcast, and as the week progresses. For the Chicago Bears, they started off bad. They got a couple of wins here. I think the big question for the Bears is what are they going to do with Justin Fields? Are they going to keep him? And I think it'll be his fifth year on that rookie contract, and then you got to pay him some money. So I think if you're the ownership and GM, the front office for the Bears, is this the guy moving forward? The decision has to be made because if you say Justin Fields is the guy, he's going to be the guy for the next 5 years, right? And you got to go with him. And I'm not sure if he has shown enough for the Bears to say, hey, look, now, for Justin Fields, man, he's had like three coaches, I think, in the time he's been there. So, you keep changing coaches. So he really hasn't had a coach where he can get comfortable with the offense. New coach comes in, changes the offense. So he hasn't had, in other words, Chicago really, they've been doing a disservice to him by bringing in all these coaches. I don't know if this coach is going to stay. Reports say that they're going to bring him back. But I think the decision has to be made outside of the coach, Justin Fields. You got to get this right. Is he the guy moving forward? And if he is, he's got to be your guy for the next 5 years, no matter what happens. You got to bring the right coach, right people around him, because he can get us there. If the answer is no, then you got the number one pick. You got two, possibly three quarterbacks coming out, so you start all over again. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision because I think it's a tough decision because I don't really know if Justin Fields the guy because they've changed coaches here, right? So I don't think he's gotten a fair share. He's played good at times, and at times he's looked bad, right? And so moving forward, I don't know, but you got to make a decision. I'm going to be very interested to see what the Bears do, and can they get the right decision. So tough decision for the Chicago Bears because do you keep Justin Fields or do you go and get the number one pick? There's some good quarterback in there. But whatever you do, even if they do go to one of these young guys, you still got to make sure you have your coaching staff in place, right? You got to keep a coach there that can help develop, right? Because when you fire a coach, bring another one, then you fire him, that doesn't help your quarterback or your offense. So again, decision needing to be made by the Chicago Bears, and we're going to keep you guys posted here to find out what they do. I really don't know. I haven't watched the Bears enough games, but I think it's tough. I don't know what I would do. I'd have some sleepless nights here because I don't know if I would keep Justin Fields or if I'd go to one of those younger guys. Tough decision. That's why they get paid the big bucks. We'll see what the Chicago Bears will do in the next couple of weeks. Next game, uh, you got the Seattle Seahawks, the Arizona Cardinals. Both teams did not make the playoffs. Seattle had an opportunity to make it. Kind of fell apart down the stretch. Is Geno Smith the guy for them moving forward? I don't know. We'll see what Pete Carroll does. But 8-8, I think they had finished the season 8-9 here. But at the end of the day, they didn't make the playoffs. They made the playoffs last year, so it's a step backwards for them. We'll see what they do as far as their quarterback. They got some decisions to make, but disappointing because they fell apart. Playing a really tough division, but really it was San Francisco because the Rams kind of came up a little bit toward the end. But I thought Seattle was going to be the best team, the second best team in that division, because you had the Rams and then you had Arizona that fell apart. But they didn't make the playoffs, so I think that's a little disappointing. We'll see what Seattle does. And in Arizona, Kyler Murray back, they really fell apart. A lot of work that needs to get done there for this team. Murray kind of didn't start the season, came in mid-season or so, had an injury. But again, they played awful. And so they got a new coach out there. We'll see how he goes through this offseason. But I think there's a lot of work that needs to get done for Arizona. They're going to build around Kyler Murray. I think that's definitely signed a huge contract, but we'll see moving forward if he's the right quarterback for this team. And we'll see if Geno Smith sticks around for Seattle. But definitely a step backwards from last year as the Seahawks did not get to the postseason this year. A couple of more games here to talk here on GT Sports um, on our Facebook page here. So we'll go to the Jacksonville Jaguars, Tennessee Titans. The Jaguars have fired their defensive coordinator and just about all of their defensive coaches. They've retained a few. 9-7 um, going into this game. Disappointing for Jacksonville because they had an opportunity to be ahead. CJ Stroud got hurt, so they had a chance to win this division weeks ago and couldn't get it done. They fell apart toward the end. There was some injuries to Trevor Lawrence. Even in this game, I don't think he was healthy. But you fire the coaches, and that's fine. The offense didn't play too good either, right? So I mean, you're the head coach. So I guess you make the changes. But I'd also point the finger to that offense because at times they didn't play well either, right? And so Doug Peterson's a good coach, but as Trevor Lawrence, look, I'll say this: going into next season, Trevor Lawrence, because going into this season, I said, and I talked to a lot of Texan fans, and I said, listen, Trevor Lawrence, uh, he's the best quarterback. And going into the season, he was. C.J. Stroud came in. Going in next year, C.J. Stroud's the best quarterback in that division. I don't care because this guy, and we'll talk about Houston, but this guy's done some great things. But for Jacksonville, just disappointing that this team didn't get into the playoffs. And even in Week 18, all they had to do was beat the Tennessee Titans, and they would have been in the playoffs, and they still had a shot in Week 18 to win the division, and they couldn't do it. So disappointing season all around for Jacksonville. They have come out today. They have fired their defensive coordinator, and then they have also let go multiple coaches on the defensive side. But there needs to be more changes because, like I said, the defense obviously in this last game, Derrick Henry got over 100 yards. They got killed. But I think there's also problems on the offense. So moving forward, we'll see what happens. But disappointing season for the Jacksonville Jaguars. For Tennessee, same thing. I think Derrick Henry will be playing for another team if he doesn't retire. We will not see him back with Tennessee. He's had a great career there with Tennessee, but you saw him kind of waving to the fans after the game. If it is his final game, over 100 yards, this guy's a beast. But now the coaching starts with Mike Vrabel. Will he continue to be the coach next year? There's rumors that if Bill Belichick leaves, he's a guy that they would consider in New England. Would he take that if it's offered? Look, Bill Parcells is still I'm sorry. Bill Belichick is still the coach for the New England Patriots, as I sit here today. I think so. If he does go, there's been talk that Vrabel would be considered for that job. I think it'd be interesting. I think if they do let Bill Belichick go and they bring in and they look for him, I think it'd be interesting. I know I would leave Tennessee. Look, he played for the Patriots, right? That organization. So there's something to go back and play for that. But again, Bill Belichick is still the coach today of the New England Patriots. So nothing's changed and probably won't for a couple of days. So we'll see what happens. But for Tennessee, another disappointing season. And they've got some work to do. And maybe they do need a new voice there. And maybe they need to go in a different direction. We'll see what all happens here. But as of right now, Vrabel's still the coach of the Titans. Bill Belichick is still the coach of the New England Patriots. But both of these teams, disappointing seasons, they did not make the playoffs. Next game, the New York Jets and the New England Patriots. Let's talk about the Jets first. High expectations going into the season, right? Because this team was good defensively and they were really good offensively. They were just missing a quarterback. And all the talk was, look, if we get Aaron Rodgers, we're going to go to the Super Bowl. We're going to win the division. They go out, they pursue him all season, and then they get Aaron Rodgers. And then Rodgers comes in game one and then gets hurt. Changes everything, right? They played good at times. They didn't have that backup quarterback offensively that could consistently get them wins. The defense was good, but that wasn't enough. So in the result, the Jets don't make the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers, I believe, is due to come back next year. And if he does and he stays healthy, this team will be good. We'll see what parts they keep and what parts will move. But if Aaron Rodgers comes in, right, I mean, I have them obviously making the playoffs. They're the favorite, if not one of the teams that I think could win the division. And Miami's there, Buffalo's there. I mean, that's a tough division. But with Aaron Rodgers, everything changes for the Jets. So let's hope he's healthy next year, because I'd love to see him play and see what the Jets can do. This year, disappointing. A lot of that Aaron Rodgers went out early in the season. The New England Patriots, 4-12, 4-13, man, that's bad. I don't think I've ever seen New England that bad. And look, if they keep him, they'll probably pick high in the draft. They'll probably get themselves a quarterback. A lot of decisions to be made. But if it were me, I let Bill Belichick go. I mean, every good thing has to come to an end. Tom Brady won you six and he left, right? It's time, in my opinion, if I'm the owner, to just part ways. You don't fire Bill Belichick. I mean, you don't do that. The guy won you six Super Bowls, right? You part ways. But I think it's time for a new voice in New England. And I'm not a Patriots fan by any means, so I could care less if they keep him or not. But I think for if I was a Patriots fan, it's time to go. It's time to go. I mean, I think Bill Belichick's a great coach. You're not firing him because he didn't, because he's bad. The guy won you six Super Bowls, right? But I think you need a new direction. I think you need a younger coach. Is Mac Jones your guy moving forward? I don't know. Like I said, they're going to draft a little high. Maybe they'll get a different quarterback. But I think Bill Belichick, I think, and New England, in my opinion, they just need to part ways. It's time. Bill Belichick will probably, if he wants to coach, he's going to get another coaching job somewhere. But just like you had to let Tom Brady go, and there was, it's like a marriage, right? And you divorced, but it was a great marriage because he brought you six rings, right? Now it's time, I think, that you bring in a new voice and you go in a different direction. And there's been some questionable things, right? Matt Patricia was the offensive coordinator last year for Mac Jones, which did him no good, right? I mean, Matt Patricia is not even an offensive mind, so why would we go that route? And then I read some reports that Robert Kraft had to come in and kind of make some changes or veto certain decisions that Bill Belichick was making because he wanted certain people in there. So I think there is some issues behind the scenes moving forward. But all that being said, right, you don't fire Bill Belichick if you're going to make the change. You come out and say we mutually, because you owe him that, right? That respect. And then you let Bill Belichick go on. And if he wants to coach, I guarantee you his phone's going to be ringing as soon as the reports come out that he's going to let go. And people are going to want this because if you're any other team looking for a coach, Bill Belichick's the guy you want. But I do believe, in my opinion, that it's time for these two. I think the New England Patriots need a new guy, and they need to go in a different direction, especially if you're going to go in and bring in and draft another quarterback. We'll see what happens. Bill Belichick, like I said earlier, is still today the coach of the New England Patriots, but definitely a bad season. And should Belichick stay, I don't think things will get much better. And look, the division is tough now too because Miami's got a young quarterback. They'll be good next year. Buffalo still got Josh Allen. They'll be good. And then if Aaron Rodgers comes back and stays healthy, they'll be good. So if Bill Belichick is to stay, not sure that things will get much better than they were this year. Just my opinion. Again, if you disagree with me, definitely let me know in the comment sections here. Find the games I'm talking about and let me know what you think, man. I'll respond back. I want to start some dialogue with some sports fans. Next game, you have the Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals. For the Bengals, it's disappointing. I love the Bengals. I'm a Bengals fan. I'm a Joe Burrow fan. I love this guy, but he got injured. And I know once he got injured, it was over for the Bengals. And even if they did by chance make the playoffs, they're going to be one and done, right? Joe Burrow's just so much for that team. For the Cleveland Browns, though, Deshaun Watson also goes down, but boy, Joe Flacco comes in, an old Joe Flacco. Now he's not old, but he's old in football years, right? But he comes in, has been a blessing to the Browns. And look, I'm going to tell you something. This guy may win some playoff games. The defense is solid for Cleveland, right? So when they brought Joe Flacco, look, we got a defense. We got an experienced quarterback. Yes, he's a little older, but there was a great move to bring him in because he's won playoff games before, very experienced, knows how to win. Cleveland knew they had a defense. So look, you come in within the system. We're not going to ask you to put it all on your arms because we can win. We got a good defense. Just don't screw it up. And he's done that. He's come in. He's won some valuable games for Cleveland, and now they're in the playoffs. And I'm not so sure that they can't win the first round. We'll talk about that in a minute. But it's been still a great season without Deshaun Watson. Now, look, we've had talks, and people tell me they should keep Flacco. Some people have told me, look, that's not going to happen. Deshaun Watson, they're paying him too much money. Now, will Flacco stay and will they pay him as a backup quarterback? I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, if I'm Flacco, I might stay there, right? If Deshaun Watson gets hurt again, you know what this guy can do. So if you're Cleveland, definitely want him in a backup role. May have to dish out a little bit of money, but he'd be a great backup for you next year. If not, I think other teams are seeing what he's doing. I think he's worked his way to an NFL contract so he could play next year. If that's a starter somewhere, backup, I'm not sure, but definitely he's done enough to get interest in other coaches. But if you're Cleveland, I'm trying to keep him in it. Deshaun Watson's got to be your guy. You're paying him a lot of money, not so he's not going to sit. But if he goes down again, you've got a quarterback that you already know, a backup quarterback can come in and win games. Going into the playoffs, Cleveland's a playoff team. I think they're going to do good in the playoffs, man. Be careful with this team. They're dangerous. Got a great defense. Joe Flacco's been playing great offensively. So looking forward to seeing what Cleveland can do. We'll talk about the wild card here in just a bit. But next game that we'll talk about here, you had, let me see, what did you have here? Tampa Bay, Carolina. Tampa Bay's in the playoffs. They won the division, although it was a weak division, but they won. This is the one team at home. Not sure how well they played. This game they played was awful statistically, but against a really a bad Carolina team. But look, Philadelphia has been playing bad. So I mean, can Tampa win that? We'll talk about that here in a minute. But they're in the playoffs. They won the division. So however you want to see it, however you want to talk about it, they're in. So we'll talk about Tampa and seeing what they can do in the wild card weekend. But for Carolina, they've got to get better. They're bad. They fired their coach midseason, which I think really hurt Bryce Young. And look, Bryce has just been running around taking a lot of hits. That team is in disarray. They've got to get better and fast, or their quarterback isn't going to make it. This was horrible. This is a bad, bad football team. Got the wrong coach. They fired him. They're a mess. You know, they've got a young quarterback that they've got to, keep healthy. The line was horrible. So they're in a mess. The owner's been in the news, some of the stuff he's done. So it's just a bad situation all around for Carolina. But we'll see what happens. At the end of the day, you got a franchise quarterback who's not a very big quarterback. You got to protect them better. But they got to protect the offensive line. But they got to get an offensive line that can give him time to throw, which he had none of that this year. So how good will Carolina be next year? I'm not sure. But the first thing they got to do is they got to find a coach. And then they got to build that team up. But I would say Carolina is in a bad, bad situation right now. Tampa going to the playoffs, Carolina going home. We'll see what happens. Next game, you have the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. So the winner of this team going to make the playoffs, and then they were going to wait later on. Should Jacksonville lose, the winner of this game would have won the division. That was Houston. So let's talk about Indianapolis. Competitive, lost their quarterback, but I thought they did good. Continue to put themselves. I think it's disappointing because they want to get into the playoffs. But obviously, when you lose your quarterback for the season, we'll see what happens next year. But they were competitive. They put themselves in a position. You want to win this game. They were playing a really good Houston Texan team, but I thought they were there at the very end. So I think there's stuff we can build for this team next year. Hopefully, their quarterback will stay healthy. They'll add some more pieces, but disappointing they didn't make it, but put themselves in a position very competitive in their division. So moving forward, I think they're going to continue to get better. For the Houston Texans, man, it's all C.J. Stroud. I mean, when this guy plays, good things happen for the Texans. When he doesn't play, that offense looks horrible. So to me, this guy's the best quarterback in the division. When we start next year in 2024, this guy's the best. He's better than Trevor Lawrence. And they're playing a home game because Jacksonville lost. So now Houston will have a home game. It's a very winnable game for them here. We'll see what happens. They're going to play a tough Cleveland team. We'll talk about that. But I love the way C.J. Stroud has played. First year, man, he's exceeded my expectations. I thought he was going to struggle year one. I thought he'd be better year two. And in talking with a lot of Texan fans, right, I said, man, this guy's going to struggle, but I think he's going to be better in year two. Well, I owe you an apology, C.J. Stroud, because you played great ball, very confident, and they don't hold anything back. I mean, this guy finds the open guy, handles the pressure well, and when he's back there, I think the Texans have a chance to win no matter what. And look, this is the most impressive thing. He's doing it. He doesn't really have a big name receiver, a big name running back. I mean, he's just doing it with a bunch of, maybe solid, average players, but no great receiver, outstanding running back. This is the team win. And then DeMeco Ryans, wow, what a job DeMeco Ryan has done here. And they've had injuries, and they've been able to, kind of work through that put themselves in a position to get into the playoffs. And then some things fell their way. Jacksonville fell apart, right? They went 1-1 when they faced what I thought was the best team this year in their division, right? They won one, they lost one, and now they're division champs. So the future looks bright if you're a Houston Texan fan. We'll see what happens. They'll have a playoff game this weekend at home. You don't have to go to Cleveland and play in that cold weather out there and that snow, which is good. If they were on the road, I'd say Cleveland's got it all. But coming back, playing at home where it's not going to be cold, it's not going to be raining, it's not going to be snowing, I think Houston has a good chance to win here. But that Cleveland team is pretty darn good. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But a heck of a season for the Houston Texans. All Texan fans should, and I'm sure they are, happy moving forward. They've hired the right coach, obviously. They have done everything right. And this team, man, I tell you what, they are scary. Nobody wants to play them. Let's see. We've got another game. I think I'm seeing this. I'm not sure if what the score is. I'm watching um the Michigan still some time left. Michigan up 20-13. So I'm going Michigan. I'm watching the college a game here as I'm talking about this as well. But let's go to the next game here. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. Wow. Steelers get the win, right? Baltimore resting a lot of the guys like San Francisco. But both of these teams in the playoffs, I didn't think Pittsburgh was going to make it. I thought they would be out. Somehow they find a way in. Impressive. Um, I like Mike Tomlin. I think he's a great coach, gets good production from his team, but they do make the playoffs, right? What are they going to do in the playoffs? I don't know. We'll talk about that in a minute. But it's been a mediocre season for Pittsburgh. But again, they got into the playoffs. That's a plus for them as they move forward. For Baltimore, I think they're the best team in the AFC. No doubt about it. Lamar Jackson, MVP. Just been great. I mean, he's just been great. Now, 2 weeks off, is that going to hurt? I don't know. I mean, I've heard both sides. You rest them, injuries, you don't rest them. I don't know. They played great. There might be some rust when they come out and play, but this is still the best team in the AFC. Hell, they're the best team in the NFL because remember they went to San Francisco, and they just didn't beat San Francisco. They whipped San Francisco. Teams don't go into San Francisco and whip them. Baltimore did that. Then the very next week they come out and play what's probably the second best team in the AFC at home, and they destroyed Miami. So when you say, okay, well, who do you want them to play next? Well, they played back to back two really good teams offensively, right, and defensively, and they weren't even close, right? So to me, Baltimore's the best team right now in the NFL. We'll see when the playoffs start how it all plays out. If some rust will set in for Lamar Jackson because he's not going to play, he's got to bye this week, so it was 2 weeks that he didn't play. But to me, this is the team I think that's going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. But you got to play the game. You never know. But for the Pittsburgh Steelers, great job, Mike Tomlin. Congratulations again, because I'm not a Steeler fan, but getting into the playoffs was huge for that team. We'll see what they do here. And for Baltimore, as I said, I think they're the best team in the NFL. So that pretty much, let's see, that's all 16 games that I wanted to recap here in a bit. So let me kind of touch bases here. Let's get to the wild card here real quick because I'm just going to talk football, NFL. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about Saturday's game. The early game, you got the Cleveland Browns traveling to Houston to take on the Texans. As I talked about, this is going to be a great game. I think it's going to be one of the better games in the playoffs. Houston playing at home. I said earlier, if they were on the road in Cleveland, I'd give it all to Cleveland. I think Cleveland, and I'm not going to make my picks yet. I'm just kind of going to throw out there. I think they would have definitely won the game, and I think most people would have gone that route. But playing at home, I think that's you kind of swings a little bit more Houston's way. Look, I think C.J. Stroud's played great. And I'm not gonna make my predictions. It's Monday. I probably won't make it till about Thursday, maybe even Friday when I come on, because it's too early to make those predictions. Because I think you still, and maybe not even till Saturday. I mean, I'm sorry, Friday, because they play Saturday. So I'll probably make my predictions on Friday evening when I come on. But because I want to see injuries, see what's going on, read more reports on what's going on between these teams. But look, right now, Houston's played great. You can never count them out with the way CJ Stroud's played. But I think the team, the full good team, I think that Cleveland's got the better defense. Joe Flacco has played great. So you've got an older player, experience, playing great for Cleveland. You got a young stud and CJ Stroud who's still taking it. The playoffs are a little different though. So I don't know. I'm just saying, I think this is going to be a good game. I want to hear from you guys who you guys think will win this game. I think it's going to be one of the better ones. And I'm not going to give you my vote just yet, but it's going to be great, man. It's gonna be a good one, and I'll give my predictions here on Friday. But again, Browns traveling to Houston on Saturday to take on the Texans. Let me know who you got. You can go to the GT Sports Facebook's the GT Sports prediction and discussion. The game I'm going to put up there here tomorrow. Let me know in the comment section who you have and why. The next game on Saturday, you have the Miami Dolphins. They'll be traveling to KC to play the Chiefs. Look, the Miami Dolphins are falling apart. They have not looked really good, but we know that they've got a great offense and they can score a lot of points. For Kansas City, they've also struggled. They're playing at home, but you got Patrick Mahomes, and so you can never count out the Chiefs when you got Patrick Mahomes. So even though they have not looked like the team in the past, that's still a dangerous team with Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick's the better quarterback than Tua Tagovailoa, but it's a team sport, right? It's not an individual sport. So again, it's going to be really good. But Miami didn't look good in their last game. I only lost 21-14 to the Bills, but Tua again, when he's on, he's on. But when they're off, they're off. What makes Miami dangerous to me is that's an offense that when they're on, they're unstoppable, right? We've seen that from them. So you don't know what you're going to get, but that's an explosive offense with playmakers. So you never know. I don't think you can ever count them out. But again, we'll see how that plays out. For the Sunday games, the first one you have the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Buffalo to play the Bills. So it's cold, doesn't really matter because Pittsburgh plays in the cold. Snow doesn't really matter. Buffalo plays like that. So I don't think for Pittsburgh traveling over to Buffalo and the weather is going to do much for Pittsburgh. I think Buffalo, and again, I have not gone and made my picks, but obviously at home, I think most people would give it to Buffalo. They're at home. Josh Allen's played great as of late. Pittsburgh kind of limping in. There's still talks about TJ Watt and what is his because if you don't have him on defense, it's really going to hurt, right? So there was an injury to him. We'll see what all that plays out and how that plays out as the week goes. But I think Buffalo right now has the advantage at home taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. But again, I'll give my final prediction at the on Friday. The next game, we have the Packers traveling to Dallas. I've told you guys about that, and the Dallas should win this game. They got the experience. They're 8-0 at home. They played great when they've been at home. The Packers have been playing great as of late, but I think Dallas is still the more superior team, and so I expect Dallas to win. But sometimes I feel like we got a curse, and who knows? Green Bay always, always when they come into Dallas, sometimes it has not been and fared well for us Cowboy fans. But there is no Aaron Rodgers there, right? It's a young kid named Jordan Love. But Dallas needs to come out and play. And as of late, outside of that Detroit Lion game, Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, Ferguson, they played great. The defense has been really, really good. So I expect Dallas to win. But again, you play the game, you never know. But again, I'll give my picks there on Friday. And then the final game, the Rams and the Lions. I think this is going to be the best one on Sunday because, again, the Lions are playing at home and they're great. But the Rams are the one team in the NFC that I think are really, really scary, right? They've got some experience defensively. They can score some points. Matthew Stafford, a lot of experience, Super Bowl champ. They've got a couple of receivers there that are playing really, really good. The team can score some points. So I think when you play the Rams, you got to come play your best game. This team can win. And again, here's the thing with the Rams, right? They're playing free. There's no pressure on them, right? We weren't supposed to be here. If they lose to Detroit, no one's really going to say anything. No one's going to bash them because they did something that most people thought they weren't going to be in the playoffs. So they play free. That's a dangerous team. For Detroit, it's a very good team. But if they don't come out and play great, I can see the Rams beating them. So that's going to be a good one on Sunday. But look, again, I'm not gonna make my pick till Friday, but boy, that's gonna be the best one I think on Sunday. Definitely looking forward to all the games, but I want to see that one as well. And then Monday, um, you got the one game. You got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa's playing at home. Philly's really played awful. I mean, really. And I think there's more to it than just struggling. That team just does not look motivated to me. Um, and they just have not looked good for weeks. So not sure if there's something else going on. I haven't read anything or heard anything, um, but they just look awful. But this is the one team in the playoffs that they could get a win. And look, here's the deal with Philadelphia, whether you want to hear it or not, right? Is that if they beat Tampa, it can change. That's still a very talented team defensively. Got one of the best quarterbacks. Now we'll see. He had the finger issue. What I'm saying is, if they go into Tampa and they win, all of a sudden this team could be back, right? You never know. One win can really change momentum for a team. But the way I have seen them, if there's one team, I think a home team that possibly could lose this weekend, it would be Tampa because they're not impressive to me. They won a division that really wasn't very good, right? Um, but the way Philadelphia's been playing, I'm not so sure they can beat Tampa. So again, a lot of things here. That's going to be a very interesting game on Monday. I'm going to watch all of these, but I tell you what, man, it's been a great NFL season. I've enjoyed it. Now the playoffs are coming, and sometimes we think these teams are going to win and they don't. But I think in the NFC, you've got the Packers and the Rams. The Rams really scare me a little bit more than the Packers do. But and again, the Rams are playing good. We've seen road teams in the past come home and beat them. So going to be very interesting. And again, just wanted to kind of recap the NFL. The games were played yesterday, but this is the podcast where I will come on every day. Sometimes it'll be in the morning, sometimes mid afternoon, sometimes it may be late in the evening, but it really doesn't matter because it's pre recorded now and it'll be uploaded. So you can check it out. And everything I'm talking about, it's on the GT Sports discussion. It's called GT Sports Predictions and Discussions page. You can check out my podcast there, and I've got every game that I talk about. So you can check it in, find out what I said, leave me your comment there, and I'll respond back. Look, and if you want to get on a podcast and go one on one with me, we can do that as well, man. I have no problem with that. But I want to open up some dialogue. Look, I'm going to be very frank here on this podcast. I do other podcasts, but this one's a little bit different. I'm going to give more of my opinion here than I do on the others. We're talking NFL, MLB, NBA, college basketball, football, baseball, softball. We'll even talk some high school sports, not football, high school, because I've got my own page there where we talk about that. But everything else in high school that comes with basketball, volleyball, soccer, softball, baseball, all that stuff in high school, we can talk about that here. Professional college as well, some boxing and some UFC. Conor McGregor, I've heard, and we'll talk about that. Making challenges to Chandler. That's a fight that he says is going to take place in June. We can talk about all of that stuff, but I'll be coming on. Sometimes the podcast may last 10, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Sometimes it may go an hour, just depending on what topic I'm talking about. There are some topics that I really enjoy talking about, may go a little longer. Some that I'll just come out and want to get your thoughts on. But again, tune in and let me know what you're thinking. I'm hoping to come on every day, short podcast most of the time, and just kind of get some dialogue, get you up here. I know there's a lot of Cowboy fans. I know there's a lot of Cowboy haters. So you Cowboy haters, come on in, join my page, man, because I'm a big time Cowboy fan, right? So if you don't like the Cowboys, man, I'd like to hear from you and kind of go back and forth with you guys, right? So again, not ever going to talk bad about a team, not ever going to put down a coach or a player. That's not who I am. But there are some teams that I really don't care much for. San Francisco 49ers are one of them. Philadelphia Eagles, I really don't care very much for. So I'm never going to really put down a coach or a player. but definitely probably going to be happy when these teams lose. So same thing with baseball, same thing with basketball. So as we move forward and get into other sports, I'll let you guys know exactly who I like. When it comes to football, though, in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys are my team. Win or lose, that's my team. So when they lose and you want to jump on here, man, listen, I don't run. So when we win, I'll be up here talking. And when we lose, I'll come back on here and I'll admit, hey, we lost, but I'll take it. If I can dish it out, I got to be able to take it. So when we win, you're going to hear me on this podcast. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be talking. But when we lose, I'll also come up here and take it from people and letting me know I'm not going to run when we lose. I'm going to do them both. So definitely tune in. Like I said, we'll be a little bit more in giving my opinion on this page than what you see on the others. So hopefully you guys will join in. And it's all in fun, man. I love sports. I want other sports fans to come on and let's just kind of have conversation here. Let's talk sports, all kinds of sports. You can catch it here on GT Sports Prediction and Discussions Facebook page. This was episode number 1. Tomorrow will be episode number 2. And who knows, we may talk more football. We may talk NBA. And we're definitely going to talk about the college championship game between Michigan and Washington. The game is being played now. And I do love Michigan. And it looks like they're going to win now. They're up 27 to 13. So definitely, however it ends, we'll kind of break that game down tomorrow. And we'll talk other sports. So until I see you tomorrow, hopefully you guys will tune in. I'll record it here. It's been pre-recorded. I'll upload it here and send it over to the page so you can check it out on our Facebook. It'll also be on YouTube as well. So until tomorrow, man, have a great night. And I'll be back to talk more sports on GT Sports Prediction and Discussions. Have a great evening.